what we know about parenting is that oftentimes we react and are working towards meeting needs without considering all of the other things that are part of those interactions. And so if I could wave a magic wand and say, if you're going to resolve to be intentional. Resolve to work directly with your child and to be intentional in your interactions with them.
The start of a new year often brings resolutions to be more active, improve our food choices, or bolster our savings account. However, a Kansas State University child development specialist says one of the best resolutions that parents can make is to strengthen their connection with their children. On today's Sound Living, building a great relationship with kids. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles says that parents need to be intentional in their interactions with children.
When you think about the things that you want to resolve to do, building your relationship with your child is likely very high on that list. So the biggest thing that I would advocate for, given my training, my education, and my experience, is intentionality. So what we know about parenting is that oftentimes we react and are working towards meeting needs without considering all of the other things that are part of those interactions. And so if I could wave a magic wand and say, if you're going to resolve to be intentional. Resolve to work directly with your child and to be intentional in your interactions with them. When I say that, I mean specifically things like thinking about what your child is thinking and being intentional in responding. Preparing for your interactions. Really being mindful of what you hope to achieve in the interactions. It's a great time to really take stock of that and realize that those are the things that make a difference for your child.
Does this mean taking a look at your current relationship, where you are and where you think the relationship is and where the child thinks the relationship is? And this doesn't have to be teenagers. This really should be the young children.
Yeah, absolutely. And, some of this for very young children is going to be very one-sided. Your 18-month-old might know a few words. They're not going to be able to articulate to you that you're not paying enough attention to them, you're not reading enough books with them, you're not meeting these emotional needs. But you can take stock and say, okay, how often am I spending one-on-one time? How often am I ignoring them for a period of time until they really cry out and need me? What are the things I could be doing together with my child? That's a huge one. So instead of possibly sitting your child in front of a television while you make lunch, it could be really advantageous for that child to be watching you make lunch, to be somewhat involved. Even very young children, give them a slice of cheese to play with, something that can involve them in the process, right? It doesn't have to be directly involved. We know that 18-month-old or 2-year-old children are just going to make a mess of whatever you're doing in the kitchen, but that's okay. It's having them present and engaged that can really help them and build that bond. When they see you doing things for them, that is helpful for them. They are learning about what being a person is.
This is also not meant to make the parent feel bad. This is something that is kind of a two-way street where you're probably going to ask the children to do some things too, maybe things that they don't normally like to do with you. You might want to try and get them involved with some of the things that you like too.
Yeah, absolutely. And starting the new year is a great time to start building in those household responsibilities. So with children, 3, 4, 5, are they going to be able to do the laundry? No, but can they hang up something for you? Can they put something in their drawers? Absolutely, they can. You can fold laundry for them and then ask them to go put it in their drawer. You can ask them to help with the dishes. Are they going to really be able to scrub a dish? No, maybe not. But they can be involved in that. There are all sorts of other things. You can help them learn to clean up for themselves. That's something that is also a huge benefit for the adults, right? So I've been having a lot of conversations with parents around this time of year, of course, because so much of the holidays are tied into parenting and our orientations and how we think about things and how we think about gifts and holidays. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is this idea of incorporating our children into our activities, into everything that we do. We do that very well during the holiday season, right? We bring them shopping. We take them to other people's houses for our celebrations, these kinds of things. But, throughout the year is a great time to continue to do that, to continue to have them involved. That's how you build that positive relationship, is not only the time, but the quality time. So being intentional and including children in the things that you do is such a tremendous way to build that. And then there are specific things that you can do within those interactions, things like asking open-ended questions, right? Instead of, do you like this? You can ask something like, well, why do you like this? Instead of, do you know how this works, or do you know how to do this? Yes, that's a single word answer, but how do you do this, right? That's a way of connecting. Providing instruction, helping them learn new skills. So maybe they start by just washing the spoon, right? But then the fork's a little bit harder, right? Might not want to give them a steak knife, but, a butter knife might be okay. Again, developmentally appropriate. But it's about, helping them understand that you care about their development. You're always modeling. You always want to provide feedback. You always want to try to help them understand why things are good. So the word because is crucial in these things. For you and me, if I said, Jeff, this is a great interview, you would understand why it was, right? That we had a good conversation, you had great ideas, I was able to respond. For children, they don't understand exactly why things are great. So saying, hey, this is a great interview because of the things that I just mentioned, or hey, you did a great job washing those dishes because you used the towel exactly like I showed you, or you put enough soap in the basin to do what we needed. That helps them. That builds their self-confidence, and it builds that relationship.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the self-confidence comes into play here. Also, just the bonding aspect. I think we all remember things that we did with our mom or our dad when we were growing up, and that's important, too, to have these elements where you have this different type of relationship and a bond begins to form.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beautiful thing about those bonds is that they get stronger and stronger the more time and intentional interactions you have. And so, yeah, we all, I think, have memories of some things that might have been completely mundane, like vacuuming for me. I remember vividly vacuuming with my mother and feeling like I was contributing in that way and being able to build that self-esteem, that self-efficacy, we call it. It is really crucial for children to be able to identify, because flatly, they want to be like mom and dad, right? Or aunt and uncle, or whomever the primary caregiver is. They want to be like that. And so it's our jobs to show them how to do that, to be really intentional. And the greatest thing about it is it's its own reward. When you're doing that and they're paying attention and you're able to build that bond, it is good for us too. It's not just children that benefit, right? We both do. And so it's really, really exciting when you can be intentional and see the fruits of that.
One of the things we never had to deal with when we were younger was our parents being, let's say, less attentive because of technology. So when you talk about being intentional, that might mean putting those devices away when the kids are around so that you can actually pay attention to them.
Yes. So it's been so fascinating for me as a child development specialist seeing how much attention we've paid to children using devices and how little we've paid to this exact element of adults using devices while their children are around and what that does. Yes, we've had technology before. We also have had books, right? Adults would read books and they wouldn't pay attention. It is a different thing. And the reason that it's very different with smartphones is adults wouldn't pull out their books in the checkout line. They wouldn't do that because it was fruitless. Whereas now, any blank space is filled. And so part of that being intentional is being very mindful of what you're doing when you're using your smartphone or your device around children. And it's two things. The first is you're modeling that is socially acceptable, which I don't think that we really want to do. And then the second thing is you're essentially saying whatever is on the phone or on the tablet is more important than you are. And I just don't think that's what we want. I don't think that we want to tell our children that whatever is on our device is more important than what they are doing Do we all as adults need distractions? Yes, of course. I would submit that we have plenty of time for that after our children go to bed, and that it is important for us to pay attention and be, again, intentional and engaged, because it goes by very quickly, and it makes such a huge difference, particularly, and this is a really important point, Jeff, is that there's an idea out there that children that are young enough don't remember things. But the thing is that they might not remember it, but their brains are being shaped by those experiences. So they might not have a conscious memory, but literally the structure and pathways of their brains are shaped by how that goes. So, yeah, they might not have any conscious memory, but I will tell you they have a physical memory. Their brains are wired according to the way that they have interacted with you. And so it's really important to think about how what we think of as memory really looks. It might not be that conscious memory. I can't play back my life as a videotape, but certainly there are things that I remember, but there are things that I have no memory of whatsoever that have had an equal, if not more profound influence on my development because of how my brain was shaped as a result of that.
I think you touched on it earlier that sometimes we set resolutions and we don't always follow through on them. Are these things that we should be writing down and then looking back on in 2 or 3 months and seeing, am I making progress in this area? Did I totally skip over this part of my resolution?
Yeah, so what we know about resolutions broadly is that sharing them with friends and family members can be very helpful for support. The other thing is that, yes, to your point, you want to check in. You want to check in every now and then. Ask yourself how you've done. Ask your partner or your friend group or teachers or whomever is around how you've been doing. That sometimes can be difficult to hear. But again, bear in mind, we're doing this to help our children, right? It's not an either or kind of component, right? This isn't I'm going to exercise or I'm not. This is I'm going to make improvements. And that's another huge element of what we know about are successful about resolutions is recognizing that there's a continuum rather than just an either or, right? If you say, I'm not going to use my tablet around my child, that might be so far away from what you could actually do that it will be very easy to give that in. But if you work on, I'm going to identify how often I use my tablet and then reduce that time, that's a very different thing. It's different to reduce rather than just to cut out. When you cut out, if you fail at that, it's easy to go right back to. If you are working towards reduction, it's much easier to continue to work on reduction, even if you've had days where you didn't reduce.
And I got to think if you tell a 4 or a 5-year-old that you want to read to them more throughout the year, at some point they're probably going to say, you said you were going to read to me, and I don't think you've been doing that.
Yeah, they will. More than anything, they want time with their parents. It is often the root of behavior problems that they want attention. They want the interactions. On the flip side of that, positive attention goes a really long way in preventing behavior problems, right? Because at our core, we want to be loved and we want attention from our loved ones. So yeah, they will certainly remind you. And I think it's good. You want to do that. And one of the greatest things is that you then get to honor that. You get to show them that they're valued and that, yeah, I wanted to read with you. I haven't done that as much as I'd like. So thank you. Let's keep going, right? You're showing them that adults are fallible, but that you can constantly improve. And it's really up to us to listen to them because they know what they want. So it's really up to us to, again, the thing I keep hammering on is to be intentional in responding and to be intentional about executing the things that we know we want to do that are good for children and good for us as parents.
That's K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles. More information on building a better parent-child... That's K-State Research and Extension Child Development Specialist Bradford Wiles. More information on building a better parent-child relationship is available at county and district extension offices and on the extension website www.ksre.ksu.edu. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.